Hello, hello, Through the Pain family. Thank you for joining me on the Through the Pain channel, YouTube channel. This is going to be a rebroadcast of the Through the Pain virtual summit that was held on June 19th, 2020, which is Juneteenth, and it's also World Sickle Cell Day. I had wonderful, awesome people within the sickle cell community that talked about their sickle cell journey and their stories. And although there were many technical difficulties because I was using a new program that I was not familiar with, and production was just trash that day. I think there's great nuggets and a lot of things that concepts that we need to understand, not only within Black Lives Matter, but like as a whole, what we need to learn more about in the healthcare community, how to treat patients within the healthcare community. So that's what's happening here in this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and subscribe to Through the Pain. There's so much other great nuggets that are coming soon. So sit back, relax, and try to enjoy the video.
Let's try that again. I'm Dima Hendricks. I'm the founder of Through the Pain, and this is the virtual summit. It is not only Juneteenth, but it is World Sickle Cell Day, and we are here to celebrate. We're celebrating our survival. We're celebrating that we Black folks, we do matter, and our health does matter too. Before we begin, I would like to go into a video of Christine Monkhouse. She's the CEO and founder of Patient Orator, and we're going to talk with her right in a moment, but take a look at this video first.
I'm Christine Monkhouse, and I am the founder and CEO of Patient Orator. And I want to make it perfectly clear that Black Lives Matter. See, I founded Patient Orator because I believed that all voices matter, that all voices should be amplified. Because what I was witnessing on the front lines of care delivery was that the healthcare system was catering to the haves and was failing the have-nots. And by that, in doing that work, in amplifying voices, I became a patient and realized that I was ignored by clinicians and by physicians for over 3 years. And that is because of the color of my skin. I had not known that there was a long historical context in the United States as to why it is perceived in the medical industry that Black folks are less likely to feel pain in comparison to white folks. See, there's a long-standing history of that, and it dates back to the 1800s, where enslaved women were performed surgeries on, experiments specifically, without any anesthesia. And then groups of clinicians and physicians would come and gather and watch them in pain. One woman in particular, Anarcha, was performed over 30 surgeries. And to pay her respect, I will say her name again, Anarcha.
Yes, we are here to talk about Anarcha and to speak with me about what is going on in the healthcare community. I am here joined by Christine Monkhouse. Welcome, Christine. Thank you for all of the work you do, and thank you for your advocacy. Welcome to the virtual summit.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm truly honored.
Awesome. So before we talk about Anarcha, could you tell me exactly why you started Patient Orator?
Yes, I founded Patient Orator because I was a night shift nursing assistant, and that allowed me the experience to interact with patients one of the things that I was seeing on the front lines of care delivery was that people of color and lower income communities, patients specifically, were treated differently. In addition to that, there were high hospital readmission rates for these patient demographics. And I question, why is it that we're not taking more measures to combat these issues? Much like what we see in COVID-19, where African Americans are disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. It's the same that applied. It's the same that I've witnessed. And so in an attempt to raise awareness of patient experience, I began this journey of documenting stories of patients through video blogging. Traveled around the country, it was clear that people's voices are not being heard. In particularly people of color, people from chronic illness communities, and people from lower socioeconomic status and backgrounds. And that is the reason why I founded Patient Orator. But the story evolves and the trajectory of the company or the startup evolves as I myself became a patient.
So you talked about being a nurse. Tell me a little bit about your patient story.
So I was a nursing assistant. My background is in public policy, just to clear that up. My patient story evolved or came to a critical halt as I was documenting these stories across the United States. I had found myself in the driver's seat of my car, hunched over in a pain crisis. I particularly suffer from a pelvic pain issue, chronic pelvic pain issue. In fact, it wasn't until I was in a crisis that I realized that I had been seen by over 7 different specialists over a course of 3 years before I would even be prescribed any kind of pain medication to manage my symptom. And like I said in the video, I had no idea that this was because of the color of my skin. And the deeper I dug, the more the historical context of slavery and the modern day disparity that we see aligned. And that was something that was very, very eye-opening to me.
So that brings us back to Anarka and her story. And you wanted to say her name and pay homage to her. I understand she was a slave and they performed many surgeries on her. And for some reason, they concluded that people of color don't experience pain. What's your take on Anarka's story and how we came, or society came to that conclusion?
So Anarka's story really stuck with me as someone, again, who suffered through pain. Anarka was an enslaved woman, and her sister Betsy and Lucy were used in a number of experiments, but Anarka in particular experienced over 30 surgery, or I should say 30 surgery on one occasion, and she was given no anesthesia during that time. I should also mention that after these surgeries, these physicians came and gathered to watch her in pain. See, the way in which that correlates to me is if you have the medical industry back in the 1800s and medical professions witnessing women, Black women in particular, in pain and then not providing them with any kind of anesthesia to manage those pain, what that correlates to is the medical industry having this mindset and medical professionals having this mindset that Black people don't experience pain at the same level as their white counterparts. And you can look at the data, and if you look at the data and you look at emergency room setting, you'll find that Black and brown patients are provided less pain medication to manage their pain symptom, or less pain management relief in those settings. And it's the same applies for children in those settings. So historically, as a people, Black and brown communities have been horrible injustices, and now we're at a point in history where now everyone is awakened to the fact that, oh, wait a minute, Black people have been suffering from inequities.
And that is the inception of systemic racism, basically, in healthcare. So thank you so much, Christine, for joining us, and pretty much telling us the inception of it all. And of course, that goes back to slavery. Is there anything else that you want to add before you go?
I'm sorry, you broke up there for a little bit.
Oh man, is there anything else that you want to add before you leave us today?
Sure. Today, significant day as people of color, as Black people. Um, it is a reminder that we are resilient. It is a reminder that we are strong. It is a reminder that we must own the power of our voices. This is a time in which society, for the very first time, is awakening to the fact that we have been treated poorly throughout different entities in society. And I just really want to encourage people to own their voices, whether that means showing up at community meetings on a societal level, or whether that means in clinical encounters, questioning your provider if they're not of the same ethnic or racial background. Hey, do you hold any biases? And if you do, let me educate you. I'm a human being. Essentially, what you're saying is that you deserve the right to be treated equally, that you are a human, and that your voice matters.
Thank you for that, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
So we're gonna move right along. And speaking of Anarcha, we have two women of color. Both are sickle cell survivors. They thrive through the pain. They're both nurses and they're both advocates. So I would like to welcome Callie Hargrove and Caroline Beard. If we can have them come on, that would be fantastic. But in the meantime, later on, we're going to have other thought leaders to talk about their specific experience.
Hi,
And
hello
hello,
everyone. Thank you for having me,
how
first of all. But in the meantime, if people can hear, I
no, we
am
can chop it up.
Caroline. I have been a nurse for more than 30 years. I work with the pediatric population. Right now, I am a public health nurse in New York City at the apex of this COVID-19 crisis. And I'm used to things going awry. That's just a part of dealing with having sickle cell disease. I don't know if I can share. That's a t-shirt I wore today. It says, "The devil whispered in my ear, you're not strong enough to withstand the storm." Today I whispered in the devil's ear, I am a child of God, a woman of faith, a warrior. I am the storm. And that's just how I feel many a day. For as having sickle cell, you make your plans, but it's really not up to you all the time if your plans don't always go to fruition. So you learn to ride out that storm or to be the storm. I choose to be the storm. Things don't go as planned. I had planned to become a doctor. Didn't know that my first semester pre-med, I would end up needing exploratory surgery, rush back to New York, and not be allowed to go back to school. But being a warrior, we have that extra oomph we have that extra. We're not going to be defeated. We're not going to let it sway our intentions. So, yes, we might have to work harder. Yes, it might have to take us a little longer, but we are going to continue to thrive. We are going to continue to do what God has placed in us to do. And I am a firm believer in God, but I am a firm advocate for people with sickle cell disease and other chronic conditions. So we are always told to what we can't do. We're always told what we shouldn't do. We're always told, oh, that's impossible. But with the warrior mentality, we're able to rise above. Many, many things are aborted, but we don't let it stop us. I just celebrated a birthday. I am very, 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 very pleased to say I am 58 years old. And I keep seeing Mike. I hope my mic is on. I see it on and I have it at full volume. But we're just going to have to go with the flow. I'm not hearing you, Dimas. I'm not hearing any questions. I'm glad you can hear me. I don't know what you would like for me to touch on, but I'll speak a little from my last talk. We just did a celebration of Warriors with Wings. My parents had 2 children with sickle cell disease, and although my sister was 9 years older than me, my parents were surprised when I came along and ended up having sickle cell because they just thought I was a crybaby. I cried a lot. But I cried because I started having crises from the time I was 3 months old, and it was not picked up until I was a toddler that I had sickle cell disease. For my sister, who was 9 years older than me, did not go through the same symptoms that I did. So I like to stress to anyone with any form of sickle cell, and we know there's more than 50 types, that you need to know your body. For each and every crisis you have is different. If I have a crisis today or have pain today, it's different from that pain I may have had last month because I'm different from that person I may have been last month. You need to know yourself. My sister did not start having crises until she was in school. So my parents didn't know what was going on with me crying as an infant. Doctors didn't know 50 years ago what that was. But thankfully, a pediatrician happened to see the swollen hands and swollen feet in a textbook. And then he told my parents that I had sickle cell disease as a toddler. So imagine all of the pain that I went through without any treatment other than coddling the crybaby. So, as a person with sickle cell, you have to build your own resilience because many people, no matter how close they are to you, truly don't know what you go through. So, know your body. Know that the foods that God has given us, the greens of the earth, are for our benefit. As I learned, the better I ate, the better I felt. I didn't learn that from medicine. I didn't learn that from nursing. I really learned that through trial and error. And thankfully, I had been a patient of Dr. Sebi before he was exiled
Yeah.
out of the country. I saw him when he started in New York, in Brooklyn, as a matter of fact. And I learned so much from him. But old habits die hard. And brought up as a vegetarian, I stepped away from it after having cravings with my first pregnancy and left children. So as I am getting back to the way I'm supposed to eat, my health is getting better, my hemoglobin is getting better. To know for ourselves that we have to seek the best care, speak up for ourselves, and continue to strive with whatever idea is given to us by the Creator. But if it wasn't given to us by the Creator, then it can't be done. But if He gave to us, we're enough. We have everything that we need to have in order to fulfill the dreams that He allows us to have.
You know, I'm
Thank
so
you for allowing me
glad.
to
Can you
speak.
hear me? Can you hear me now?
Welcome.
All right. Can you? Okay.
I think I messed your name up.
That's Callie.
You'll have to pronounce it. But
So
you're beautiful.
I'm so glad we had that technical difficulty because we needed that wisdom. So, you know, you talked about weathering the storm and we're having so many difficulties.
Do I need to come off in order for
Hear me? Oh,
the next person to speak?
can you hear me?
Miss Hargrove?
It's
Do I
okay.
need to come
So we're
off in
gonna.
order for you to speak? I am anxious to hear what you have to say.
It's okay. We're gonna keep it moving. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry you can't hear me right now. I'm gonna be in transition, and I want to hear from you, Miss Callie. Thank you so much for joining us, and I want to thank Caroline for her pearls of wisdom because we needed that right now. Maybe that was what we needed, even though all of this craziness is happening. And we're just learning how to move forward. Again, this is Callie Hargrove, our Through the Pain, my very first Through the Pain ambassador. I want to thank you for coming on today. Welcome.
So much for having me. So excited to be here.
Okay, so a couple of questions. You are a nurse now. What motivated you to get into your role as a nurse?
When I was growing up in the hospital, I had so many great nurses that inspired me to want to go and help others like myself. And along with the good ones, of course, there was some bad ones as well. And that inspired me to go more. And I'm like, no, we need some fighters on our side, especially on the side.
Yeah, I understand that because I remember having some really good nurses along the way. They have motivated me to keep fighting for myself. But having that experience of having the bad ones that talk to you any type of way, it can be really it can get you down. So how do you cope during those times when you feel that you're discriminated against in the hospital?
I just have to sit and just talk to them. That's all I'm getting through. It's really rough. I keep saying and keep grounded. I'm going to last forever. And I'll get through it.
So you are probably one of the strongest people I know. And I say that because I've seen you grow right before my eyes. You were Miss Mississippi and Miss Black Mississippi International. Well, at the time was U.S. Ambassador. But now you are not just a pageant queen, because it's not just any ordinary pageant. You are an ambassador for change. And you came out of that role and you placed very high and you did very well. And and you moved on to become a nurse. And what's next for you?
Well, since I am a new grad nurse, I'm trying to see way help as many people as I can. And then to continue advocating, I work with the Mississippi Sickle Cell Foundation. So as soon as COVID-19 gets out of the way, we can get back out and educate the community in person. That would be great.
Awesome. Thank you. Before you leave, do you have anything else that you want to share? Any final thoughts that you would like to share with the community?
I just want to say the warriors out there to keep going, keep fighting. This battle is easy, but we can do it.
And I appreciate you being here. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to have our next guest come on the screen here. We have Mr. James Ace and Abner. Let's see. So now I don't know how this happened, but I'm producing the show now. This is fun, y'all. Technical difficulties is real great. All right, so thank you, Callie. While I figure this out, if you can jump off, that'd be great. I'm just going to talk to Abner until we figure this whole thing out. I want to welcome Abner Jackson III. He is the author of Through It All. And we're going to have him on real quick. How are you, Abner? I'm so sorry for all these technical difficulties we're having. Thank you for joining me for this summit.
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can definitely hear you, sir.
All right, good.
Yeah, so let us talk about, oh, wow. I figured something else new. I think I can have our panel going here. Let us talk about disparities as I also welcome Mr. James Ace. Hey, James, can you hear me? Oh, wow. I got it. Something went right today. That's amazing.
That's good.
We're going to get through it. Through the pain, right?
Yeah, always.
All right. So, Abner, like I mentioned before, you are the author of Through It All. And James Ace is the author of Breaking Silence, and they're both sharing their sickle cell journey. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
All right, James, I see you rocking the Sickle Cell Matter shirt from Mr. Nazir.
Yes, I am. One of the sickle cell conventions, and love the message.
Awesome. So, James, let me start with you. What inspired, just want to talk about your book real quick. What inspired you to write your book, Through It All?
The reason I wanted to write the book was because when I was growing up, it was and so I wanted to share my story, and I was seeing that, someone was going through that and not alone. And also, for me, was the mistreatment and people not understanding what it was. And what I actually went through with myself, that led me to do and share pretty much everything with them.
Okay. Abner, what about you, sir?
My book last week, Found You.
Yes.
But I started my book when I was attending UCF in 2005. So it was real sad. Me getting in hospital for 3 months. Just real sad and depressed. So basically, 2018 was when I started over from scratch. And I started my website in March 2018. So I was like 95% done.
Oh, wow.
So basically with us going to quarantine, I started reading that book at least by day. So it came out second week of June. This is me leaving Florida, moving to Atlanta, sickle cell care. And I went from being hospitalized every 3 months to like, I went 2 months for that 23 months for that.
Wow.
So right now, since May of last year, and I haven't been to the ER like January 2nd of this year, as long as I have our visit. So basically, my little between college moves to Atlanta. I do the acting, extras. I started in the World Sickle Cell. So it's just a big thing. God is basically healed me, blessed me in different environments.
Wow, that's an amazing. I need to get the book. That's an amazing story, and that's a great accomplishment to have written this book throughout the coronavirus. Like that's very. I commend you. My question for both of you gentlemen. I know about everyone has a battle wound story, especially sickle cell survivors. We have a story of being discriminated against in the hospital. Can you share a time or two that you felt discrimination while getting care in the hospital? Let me start with you, James.
Yeah, I was like 20 and I was taking food because up to that point, my mother would always so the time took a long time to me. And then when he came out, instead of me being treated like I was going through with pain medication, I was getting pills and staying home. But that whole time, and you know, not being a drug, pain was not being taken care of. And that was the one thing that really hurt me the most. And you know, that stuck with me. Everything was emergency. Am I going to go through all the time? But I had to be positive and just think this is one time. And every time I went, you know, have this.
Ooh. All right. How about you, Abner?
Well, one reason I moved to the hospital, we had the stuff in there. So basically, I don't know if it's the general population ER. So I like going to where it's maybe about 12, 15 beds, and we all in for the same reason. For that, so I'm worried about discrimination, another thing I'm just junkie, something like that. I have always been a hate relationship with time to ignore their stuff. That's the reason to Atlanta to be healthy. I would be hospitalized every 3 months, and I do this like basically not 20th birthday to me being like 30, maybe like 2 years since I got to Atlanta. I was sick a lot. Be alive, be hospitalized every 3 months. So I got put me in place of better healthcare. So I'm not worried about going to a regular ER to worry about those stereotypes.
Now, with the are you guys hopeful now that the Black Lives Matter movement has had such momentum? Are you guys hopeful that there's going to be a change in healthcare?
I think it has something to do with here in DC. They have a big sickle cell population. I know Cleveland has Mayo Clinic, but that's too far. It's too cold and boring. But Atlanta, like 6.5, 7 hours flights. I still get home if I need to. But I think it has a lot to do with the population. I mean, where you're at. I got sick on a cruise. I talked about it in the book. Letting you know what I was. I was in pain 50 hours. So the worst pain ever. Popping pills every 4 hours.
Wow. Wow. So I'm sorry.
So she shouldn't have been in the boat. She didn't know what was. That's my opinion.
Right. Right. Wow. So James, do you feel hopeful about the future?
Yeah, I think I'm hopeful. I think with the whole Black Lives Matter, it's opening up the world to conversation because now we have to talk about racism and everything, and we have to talk about it. It's been really hard since the late 60s, 70s for the people who discriminated in healthcare. being treated. So I am hopeful with the movement doing this more help up. We can make a change. We can do a change. I think there has to come to community to, bridge the gap between us and the professionals who think that, we can get the right food. Yeah, I'm hopeful.
Well, thank you guys for joining me for this great panel discussion, and I will definitely get both of your books and promoting them heavy on the Through the Pain website. All right, you guys take care.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you. So, last but not least, this is what I was waiting for.
You're doing it.
Oh my gosh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Beverly Francis Gibson, the president of the National Sickle Cell Organization. Welcome, Beverly. It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you. It is an honor for this conversation.
All right. So we heard about the horror stories first with Anarcha. We heard about the inception of the racial bias. And we heard wisdom from Mama Caroline, even though she couldn't hear us. She was just giving wisdom, and that was so needed right now.
Yes.
And we heard the horror stories from the gentleman on the panel, and some triumphant stories from Callie as well. But now I want to have a conversation about us moving forward.
Yes.
There needs to be, now with the inception of the Black Lives Matter movement, it's actually picking up momentum. And now we have people who are inspired to do something about it. And they're seeing the privilege. They're seeing they're seeing white privilege. And now we're starting to see able-bodied privilege as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what are ways that we can move forward? That's my biggest question.
I definitely think that this is a moment in time that we should galvanize as a group of warriors, patients, caregivers, advocacy organizations to really push for change in our country. We know that COVID-19 really highlighted the weaknesses in our healthcare system. And it wasn't that there were things that we didn't know before, but it really brought to light the inequities in terms of access for healthcare and health services in this country. So some of the items that I would suggest and that we will be working on as the Sickle Cell Disease Association of America, and would invite your listeners to be a part of, are ways that we can advocate for change with the folks on the Hill. And we also advocate for change locally and at the state level, because we know that in order for things to happen, we have to start where we are in the communities where we live. And so the first thing is health equity for all. And health equity means equal access for everyone. Not the haves and the have-nots, but for all. I would also add that we want to ensure that our children can return to school safely when and if that makes sense. And that parents need to make some decisions about what they advocate for on behalf of their children with the school system. And I will tell you that here in Maryland, our chapter here in Maryland has actually had some successes in having the curriculum change to include sickle cell disease. And that's information that could be shared across the country. We also want to advocate for educating other people about the disparities that African Americans, particularly in this country, face, and how systemic racism impacts our health and access to health. So let me give you an example. We have families living in communities where they have to travel 4 hours to access health care. In 2020, that should not be the case. And so what's happening now is, because of COVID-19, those same families are accessing telemedicine and telehealth services, and that's an hour. not having to be on a bus and not having to take an Uber or a cab or driving for 4 hours to see your provider, when telemedicine and telehealth is something you can do in your kitchen, your living room, your bedroom. So that is definitely an area that we're going to see a big change. It's happening now, but we need more advocates on the ground fighting for this to continue. The other is systemic testing and treatment for patients with sickle cell disease. We know that there are 100,000 sickle cell patients in this country. We know that there have been 100 or more COVID-related deaths in this country, with, from sickle cell patients. And we want to make sure that we don't have any more, that number does not increase. And so we need to advocate for testing and for treatment for patients uniformly across this country. Then I would also add technology. As a result of COVID-19, just like you're using this new platform that I learned today, we know that technology can and does equalize communities and equalize people. But if you're living in a low-income neighborhood or a low-income community and you don't even have access to a laptop, how can you level the playing field and for kids do your homework, or for adults and families access telemedicine and telehealth? And so there are a number of efforts underway that we are participating in. We've written letters to Congress asking for support for more funding for telemedicine and telehealth, more funding for technology support for all families, so that they can have access to the services that they need wherever they live. And I would say to you, education. I am surprised that in 2020, as I travel the world, I travel the United States, there are still people that say to me they did not know that sickle cell disease exists. And that is actually very troubling. And so we have to continue the work of educating and raising awareness about sickle cell disease and sickle cell traits. And so I commend you for what you're doing, Dima, and the work that our chapters around the country are doing. Our chapter in Boston, amazing work. But we need more advocates, we need more volunteers, we need people on the ground who are helping, because our warriors and our patients get tired. And there are people out there who are asking, how can I get involved? What can I do? And we want to make sure that we can plug them in to efforts on the ground in their communities and use their skills. A lot of people have skills and talents that we're not capitalizing and we're not using. And we have to find a way to make everyone feel like they have a place and they can sit at the table and they can be a part of the solution.
Wow. Thank you, Beverly. That was amazing. You mentioned that, yes, our warriors are tired. Yes. There are days that I am exhausted.
Yes.
But I want to let you guys know, all of the warriors, our stories are so impactful.
Yes.
And it's our stories that will keep the momentum movement and movements like this moving.
Yes.
Just Abner writing a book and where he was coming from, James writing his story.
Yes.
The wisdom from Caroline.
Yes.
It was so inspiring to even keep me moving through this whole summit situation.
Yes.
And I appreciate hearing stories from fellow warriors, because sometimes I feel like I'm alone.
Yes.
And I don't take it lightly.
No.
From other stories.
And I will tell you, that's what inspires me every day to do what I do. The people that I meet, the patients and the families that I meet across the country, who are like, we can't believe that you showed up. I flew to Oregon last year for a meeting that they were having, and people were sobbing. They were like, the fact that you got on an airplane and came to us tells us that you know that we're important, and it means something to us, that you believe that we're important. And I'm like, of course. It's because of you I am doing what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a family member of someone that's living with sickle cell disease right now. And even within my own family, it's not being discussed. His story isn't being told. And it's the stories that help legislators and people that don't see us, really see us, the stories are what make the difference in terms of getting people's hearts and minds connected to change. Data helps, but it's really the stories that are impactful.
Right.
When you have a 9-year-old girl who's had a stroke and she's having to be homeschooled because she cannot be in the classroom like with her classmates, or her classmates questioning, well, why are you in the hospital so much? Those kinds of stories are what keep me moving and motivated to do our way on behalf of the patients around the world. And I will tell you today, World Sickle Cell Awareness Day, it's also for the warriors that we have lost, who no longer have a voice, because we don't want to forget them. And we don't want them to think that we've forgotten them. So this is important work.
Wow. I needed to hear that.
Yeah, and we all get tired. We're all human, and we're all living with a lot of social conditions right now. It's so hard some days, but I will tell you personally, what really energizes me is people like you doing what you do. When I met you a few months ago, your story stayed with me, and I've been talking about you ever since.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I'm serious about that. The patients that I meet around the world, around the country, that share this, invite me into their homes, those are the stories that keep me going when I get tired. When I need to be re-energized, when I need to remember, why am I doing this? Because it is hard work. And it is dark some days, and it is sad some days. But what I loved about how you ended the segment 4 with Abner and the other gentleman was what gives us hope is that we know that there are people working tirelessly every day, every second to ensure that there is a future for sickle cell patients and warriors in this country.
You mentioned hope. Yeah, you mentioned hope in the future. That's my favorite scripture. I don't even know if you see my email.
I do.
And you see in my signature is Jeremiah 29:11.
Yes.
I know the plans that I have for you is to give you hope in the future.
Yes.
And I stand on that for people who are not of the faith. But that is something that I stand on.
Yes.
And if I do not hope for my future, I promise you, I would not get up in the morning. It's that scripture that gets me going in the morning.
Well, it's scripture, songs, music.
Yes.
That keeps the faith, that keeps me going. You know, and I create a theme every year, and my theme is based on spiritual messages that I get. And my theme for 2020 is we're going to be victorious.
Well, amen.
So, and it is so.
And in the midst of it all, we're still remaining victorious.
Oh my God, oh yes. That we don't have a choice. As a people, we don't have an option. We've come through so much historically. And if you look at what's happening around the country, but we are kings and queens who stand tall on the shoulders of people who've gone before. So we don't have a choice but to continue to do what we do for them and for the generations to come. I'm preaching.
You like Cash App? Collection plate? Something.
But it is real.
Okay, so how can someone get involved in the organization? I know they're in the Boston area. There's the Greater Boston Sickle Cell Disease Association.
Yes.
The website will be in the credits after this program. Please donate. But how can they get involved with the national organization?
The Sickle Cell Society of America also has a website, and it's sicklecelldisease.org. We are also looking for people who are interested in being volunteers as advocates. And so I have re-energized our National Sickle Cell Network. And what we're going to be doing is meeting on a quarterly basis to look at what the advocacy agenda is for the year and how we can advocate to change wherever we are. And that is in partnership with the national office. We also have people that are speakers who are sharing their story. We have videos actually that we're playing all day today, patient stories. We have Twitter parties happening today, again, highlighting the need for us to dispel the misconceptions about sickle cell disease. We're having a watch party tonight looking at the documentary Spill Milk. There's so much happening around the country today, tonight. DJ Envy is doing a party at 8 p.m. for the people that want to watch what he's doing and advocating for change for sickle cell disease. So I invite people to call me directly and email me if there's anything that you need. My goal is to make sure you get connected wherever you are in the United States.
All right. Then that's some stuff that's a call to action for me as well.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing that. And, thank you so much for being here. Despite the technical difficulties, I think this was a success.
It's all good.
And I really appreciate you. And you will hear from me more often.
Please.
Okay.
You know how to find me.
Oh, yeah.
And just know that you inspire me to do what I do as well. And the work is not for the faint, but we're in this for the long haul.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you for joining us. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. I just want to thank you for hanging in there with me during this Through the Pain Summit. It's been a hard road just to get here and just to do this. There was a passion to do it. And just yesterday, I was in the bed and not wanting to get up, but I still pushed through the pain. And for everyone out there, all the sickle cell warriors under the sound of my voice, keep moving, keep daring, keep dancing, keep dreaming through the pain. All right, take care.